Welcome back to the program. So on yesterday's show, in one of the segments, I don't remember which one it was, I was talking about the U.S. Census, and I was saying that President Trump has a goal of redoing the census, hopefully before the midterm elections, and he wants to base it, of course, on the results of the 2024 election. And of course, he wants to make sure that non-citizens are not counted, which of course will probably bring us 18 to 37 new House seats, because they're going to lose that many. And that's not even counting the 5 that we got today, because it is now official that the redistricting has happened in Texas. So that's now 5 seats that are going to flip to Republicans. So we have a bigger advantage at this point. But remember, we're not doing anything illegal here. We're not cheating. We're not doing anything unconstitutional. All we're doing is playing the Democrats' game. The Democrats have been redistricting Republicans out of existence in blue states for 40 to 50 years. Okay? It's been that long. And so all we're doing is finally stepping up and saying, hey, enough is enough. We're going to do things the right way. We're going to do things the constitutional way, and we're going to do things that are fair, of course, because of the makeup of the state and the makeup of the voters. That's how this works. So couple that with what I'm going to talk about today in the first segment, which is the fact, and I love the fact that the New York Slimes is the ones that had to bite their lip and write the article about it. But the Democratic Party is about, I would say, as popular as maybe syphilis, gonorrhea, or an infected scrotum these days. Okay? And so the Democrat Party faces a voter registration crisis. Now, if you remember, during the last election in 2024, we flipped Pennsylvania, and we flipped, I can't remember the exact number, but it was all but 4 counties in the state of Pennsylvania flipped to Republicans. And of course, a lot of that had to do with Scott Pressler. It had to do with Pennsylvania Chase, of course, and those folks and those patriots that worked real hard. But every single state in the union moved at least somewhere around 4% to the right. And some states went even further, 8, 9, even 10 percentage points to the right. So what has happened now is that it's now showing up in registrations, or shall we say, lack thereof. The Democratic Party faces a voter registration crisis. The party is bleeding support beyond the ballot box, a new analysis shows. Of the 30 states that track voter registration by political party, Democrats have lost ground to Republicans in every single one of those states between 2020 and 2024's elections, and not by a little bit, by a lot. That 4-year swing towards the Republican Party adds up to 4.5 million. That's right, 4.5 million new voters, a deep political hole that could take Democrats years to climb out from underneath. Now, let's think about this for a second. 4.5 million voters. That is a lot. Almost every single election in the last 50, 60 years has probably been decided with a very few, maybe the Reagan landslide, right? That was probably one. And then I think Obama's did a pretty decent job back then. But other than that, they've all been very, very close. And they've all been within 800,000 to maybe 2 million votes tops, somewhere right around there, okay? And so 4.5 million votes, that is a huge number. And if that number holds and we get rid of these illegal voters and we make sure that we have election integrity, bye-bye, Democrats. Sayonara. Don't let the door hit you on your ugly asses on the way out, because that's it. We've taken your base. What did I used to say for years and years and years? I used to say 25 and 40, right? And what did I mean by that? 25% of the black vote, 40% of the Hispanic vote. If Republicans can capture those numbers, Democrats can't win elections because there's not enough whiny, bitchy white women, with purple hair and nose rings to show up to outvote us. Okay, that's just the reality. And so now 4.5, that is a huge, huge, huge number. So let's see and take this a little bit further. Let's see. The stampede, I love how they use that word, right? The stampede away from the Democratic Party is occurring in battleground states, the bluest and the reddest states as well, according to new analysis of a voter registration data by the New York Slimes. The analysis used voter registration data compiled by, what is that? I can't read it. L2, a nonpartisan data-driven firm. I think I've heard of that firm, and I don't think they're nonpartisan. Let's see. Few measurements reflect the luster of a political party's brand more clearly than the choice by voters to identify with it, whether they register on a clipboard in a supermarket parking lot or at the Department of Motor Vehicles or in the comfort of their own home. And fewer Americans are choosing to become Democrats. That's right. In fact, for the first time since 2018, there are more new voters nationwide choosing to become Republicans than Democrats. All told, Democrats have lost about 2.1 million registered voters between the 2020 and 2024 elections in these 30 states. Along with Washington, D.C., that allows people to register with a political party. In the remaining 20 states, voters do not register with a political party. Republicans gained 2.4 million in those states as well. There are still more Democrat-registered voters nationwide than Republicans, partly because of the big blue states like California, allowing people to register by party, which red states like Texas do not. But the trajectory is troublesome for Democrats, and there are growing tensions over what to do about it. Democrats went from nearly an 11-point edge and advantage over the Republicans on Election Day of 2020 in those places with partisan registration to just over a 0.6 percentage point edge in 2024. That swing helps to explain President Trump's successes last year when he won the popular vote for the first time and then swept the swing states and roared back to the White House. I don't want to say the death cycle of the Democratic Party, but there seems to be no end to this, said Michael Prusser, who tracks voter registration closely as the director of data science for Decision Desk headquarters, an election analysis site. There is no silver lining or cavalry coming across the hill. This is month after month and year after year. The shifts also previewed Democratic weaknesses in 2024. The party saw some of its steepest declines in registration among men and younger voters, two constituencies that swung sharply towards President Trump. All four presidential battleground states covered by the New York Slimes and their analysis, Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, showed significant Democrat Party erosion. In North Carolina, Republicans erased roughly 95% of the registration advantage that Democrats held in the fall of 2020. According to state records as of this summer. In Nevada, for instance, Democrats suffered the steepest percentage point plunge of any state but West Virginia between 2020 and 2024. The share of voters choosing to register with either party went down after the state adopted an automatic voter registration system, but the Democratic decline allowed Republicans to surpass Democrats early in the year. For many years, More and more voters have been registering as independents or unaffiliated voters, which is hurting both parties and their voter rolls. More recently, though, however, the growth has come mostly at the expense of the Democratic Party. Top Democrat strategists say that the party's nationwide registration decline is a hidden, in plain sight crisis that must be reversed before the 2028 election. Consider this: in 2018, Democrats accounted for 34% of new voter registrations nationwide, while Republicans were only 20%. Yet by 2024, Republicans had overtaken Democrats among new registrations. In 6 years, the GOP share rose by 9 percentage points. The Democrats sharply dropped by 8 percentage points. The Times compiled registration data from L2. I keep seeing 1.2, but then again, I'm 50 and I'm not wearing glasses and my eyes are a little bad. L2, and compared it to state records across the country to show the scope of the registration and the decline for Democrats. And then they interviewed more than 24 party strategists and officials involved in registration efforts. Quote, "We fell asleep at the switch," said Maria Cardona, a veteran party strategist and longtime member of the Democratic National Committee. No, you didn't really fall asleep at the switch. Basically, you had an illegal, fake victory, and you installed a sock puppet with dementia, and you had an auto pen administration, and you basically ruined everything you could possibly do. You opened up the borders, you let Americans be killed, you let inflation go crazy, you let rates go up, you get everything, you destroyed it all, basically. And then, of course, you tried to put men and women's sports, you went woke, you did all this DEI bullshit that everybody hated, and you somehow expected to win an election. And then couple that with the fact that we finally got a ground game, we got serious, we put Turning Point out there in the swing states, they did a hell of a bang-up job. You had Scott Pressler out there in a bunch of states too, and we played your game. That's right, we actually played your game. And what was that game? Voting early. Do we like voting early? Hell no. We want to get rid of early voting. We want to get rid of mail-in voting. We want to get rid of all of that. We want one day for voting, and that's it. And no, it should not be a, quote, holiday. We didn't need a holiday in the past. We don't need a holiday now. But here's what we did. We played your game, and we kicked your ass at your own game. So it wasn't that you fell asleep at the switch. You didn't have the switch on to begin with, and we did. Okay? But Democrats are divided, and they don't know what to do. For years, the left has relied on a sprawling network of nonprofits, which, by the way, through your slush funds, through your Act Blue, through your USAID, through your left-wing organizations and Soros and everything, we're coming after it all, okay? We're coming after it all. We're going to shut down all of your slush funds and all of your money-making scams out there. And you're going to be left with, maybe having to actually win an election the right way and the legal way, and not with illegal voters, and not with scams, and not with, same-day registration and sandbagging and mail-in no-fault ballots and all the other garbage and no ID. Yeah, those days are over, okay? They are over. And let's hope and pray that this administration, which certainly seems as though that they are serious about election integrity, the problem is Congress going to wake up and also realize, you'd think, right? Self-preservation, politicians want to stay in power. Here's your opportunity, Republicans, to get on board with what the Trump administration is doing, and you can stay in power as long as you want, because you're not going to have Democrats winning elections if you do the right thing, which is mandate voter ID, kick out the non-voters, the people that are not legally here, and redo the census. Knock out 30 Democrat seats when they have to recalibrate the real numbers for each state. That's how you win. That's how you stay in power, legally and constitutionally. But these rhino idiots can't see that for whatever reason. Well, we just want to get along and we want to be in power for a little while, and then they can be in power for a little while, and then they'll screw things up, and we'll run and say that we'll fix all the problems that they screwed up, and then, they'll run and say, well, the Republicans... How about we just have one party in this country, the Republican Party, a conservative party that believes in rule of law, law and order, and rights for everyone, and freedom of speech, and the Second Amendment, and everything else? How about we do that? How about we have one party that is in power, that we can trust, that will continue to make us the greatest country in the world? Because the Democrats, they can't be trusted with power, as far as I'm concerned, ever again. Ever again. So let's see. Though these groups are technically nonpartisan, yeah, right, they're not nonpartisan. Really? Come on, New York Slimes. You're saying they're nonpartisan? Please, give me a break. All they do is register Black, Latino, younger voters and all that. And believe me, they go into the blue cities, they go into the shitholes, they go into, the worst of the worst. They go into nursing homes. They take advantage of senior citizens, people with dementia. Oh, here, just sign here. Okay. And then they hand that in. How do you live with yourself doing that to people? It's so sick and so twisted. And then it says, Mr. Trump upended the calculation with the inroads that he made with working class non-white voters. You can't just register a young Latino or a young Black voter and assume that they're all going to know and show up and vote for Democrats and that we have the best policies, said Miss Cardona. Behind the scenes, a fierce fight is underway over how Democrats should address their sagging voter registration numbers, which groups should receive funding to do the work, and if a battle with hundreds of millions of dollars at stake, putting partisans against philanthropists and some of the Democratic Party's most important people versus their elites versus the grassroots. Well, sounds like they have a similar problem as we do, huh? Right? What have we been doing for the longest time? We've been fighting the establishment. We are the grassroots, Washington establishment, rhinos, right? So it seems like they have their own kind of dinos or rhinos or whatever you want to call them. They have the people at the top. They've got the Pelosi's and they've got the Clintons and all these people that are baked in. These are the people that are our equivalent to John Cornyn and Mitch McConnell. These are the people that we want to get rid of. They want to get rid of their Clintons. They want to get rid of, their Nancy Pelosi's and all that. And they want the radicals. They want the extremists. However, our grassroots are not extremists. Our grassroots are actual conservatives, real reformers. That's the difference. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting. I'm not going to say that the Democrat Party is completely dead, especially not with real solid election integrity put in place permanently yet. But they're on life support, okay? And you know what? I can't wait to pull the plug. Anyway, let's move on. So you do remember a couple of, 5, 6, 7 shows ago where I broke it down and I explained how they're cooking the books on the numbers in D.C. And I said, point blank, that someone gets arrested for a very violent crime and then some overweight, donut-eating sergeant or sheriff comes up and goes, no, don't write that on the thing. Say that it was this crime instead, which isn't listed or classified, so that we can fudge the numbers and say that violent crime isn't as bad as it truly is. Well, yeah, it is. And yes, they are cooking the books. And it's not just in D.C. They're cooking the books in every single blue city. Period. End of story. Well, it looks like they're now going to be investigated. That's right. They are going to be investigated because the Department of Justice has said just now that they are opening up a criminal investigation into the falsified DC crime data. Okay? The Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, said, quote, "We have opened up an investigation into it, and hopefully we will get to the bottom of it and hold those accountable. So once again, they tried to fudge the numbers, new people in control, new sheriff in town called President Trump, and he's not buying it. He's not dealing with it. He's going after these people. And you know what? He should, and hopefully he will. And by the way, Judge Janine is running the investigation, so good luck that. She's pretty tough. They ought to do this in the other states as well, not just in D.C. They ought to do this in other states. As a matter of fact, Paxton, for instance, in Texas, open up an investigation into Houston. Open up an investigation into Dallas. Open up an investigation into Austin. Open up an investigation into El Paso. Okay? Open up those investigations and find out what the crime statistics are that are being reported. Do your own analysis and find out if they're cooking the books. Okay? That's what they ought to do. And they ought to start in red states because, let's face it, if you try to do it in a blue state, you're going to get sued. Newsom's going to come out, all this other stuff. Might as well start where you know that you have the ability with a governor and an attorney general that you actually can get results and get stuff done. Florida, for instance, go through Palm Beach County, okay? Go through Orlando, go through Miami, go through any of these different areas. You have Republicans in place to get this stuff done. Do it. All we need is 3 or 4 red states to prove that their blue cities in their red states are doing the same thing. And then, boom, then you can open it up nationwide. So we'll see what happens, okay? We'll see what happens. But here is some truth bombs from the folks that are actually living, that's right, living in Washington, D.C., and having to live with the crime. The people that are there, they know what the crime rate is. They understand how dangerous it is. And why they keep voting Democrat, I don't know. I would assume because the elections are rigged also in Washington, D.C. When you have that many Democrats in one little area, guess what? You're going to have corruption, crime, drugs, murder, and everything else. It's just like anywhere else in any blue city, whether it's in the United States, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in Africa, whether it's Australia, it doesn't matter. Any blue-run city or liberal-run city or globalist-run city is going to be an absolute disaster because that's what they are. They are walking disasters. Anywhere they go, that's what happens, okay? So this is the Gateway Pundit's Kara Castronova, and she's walking around D.C., and she is talking to some of the folks in D.C., and this is what they had to say.
Here in the heart of Washington, D.C., I'm hitting the streets to talk directly to the people who actually live here, the ones who deal with the city's crime and chaos every single day. Do you feel like President Trump's initiative to send in more police could be helpful for D.C. residents that don't live in safe areas?
Yes, I do. And I'm very appreciative of what Trump is doing. And I think everything that he's doing is helping D.C. as well as America.
At this point in my life, I think I'd rather move to another state.
How come?
Well, I've been shot 4 times, attacked so many times, it's getting, I'm tired of it.
You were shot 4 times?
Shot 4 times in my life, yeah.
So it was four separate times?
Since I moved to D.C.
Since you moved to D.C., you were shot 4 times?
Yeah.
Residents expressed frustration with wealthy liberals, progressive protesters, and Democrat politicians that continue to say that Washington, D.C. is safe.
They don't have to deal with the crime in the other areas. They have better stores, better protection, police protection. This area right here, around here by Hecker Jamal, I wouldn't want my grandchildren to walk around here. They live in this area, not far.
So what's your message to President Trump if he sees this?
I love you and keep up the good work and thank you for all of what you're doing. God bless you.
I just want the police to do what they can for our country, for our city of D.C. So none of so none of us young people don't have to live out the rest of our lives robbing and killing or God knows what, or end up in jail, dead, or drunk, or becoming a drunk at the liquor store or loitering.
The youth in D.C. need more governing. They need more policing, more programs. Put programs back in place.
Y'all keep talking about the youth. Where they going at? They don't got no rec centers. They don't got no playgrounds. They don't got nothing. They don't even got boxing teams no more, or football
I know,
teams.
they got boxing is the answer. I used to be a boxer. I was a 2-time Golden Gloves champion. They don't have a boxing gym here? Are you kidding me?
No, I'm saying they got them, but it's not like it was when we was coming up.
Wait, when they had mentors.
Yeah, they don't have nothing out here for youth, period.
I did recently hear about the woman being thrown in the trash can down the street, like a few months ago, and that was very concerning, especially because her age, she was a little bit older.
I got God. I got Jesus. He's my protector.
Do you think women are safe, single women?
Yes, if they have Jesus, that's all they need. Jesus is the way.
Well, get a lot of people off the streets, yeah, that'd be a good idea. There's a homeless problem, yeah.
We have to be protected. Other countries are protected. Why we can't be protected? And the cities, people has gone crazy. Just let a man take over. Let Trump take over.
Okay,
Yes.
so you're for federalizing D.C. Because you think that it will help the people here be more safe?
Yes, 100%.
Reporting for Lindell TV in Washington, D.C., I'm Kara Castronova.
So there you have it. The DC residents understand how unsafe the city has been. Now, in just the last 7-8 days, however long they've been there, over 500 arrests. They have seized multiple millions upon millions of drugs and stuff like that. They've gotten probably a couple of hundred guns off the street. They've arrested some gangsters and gang members, MS-13, Tren de Agua, a bunch of others. I think there was like 14 or 15 of them. Violent crime has been way down. I mean, I think I saw somewhere it said like 86% or something like that. In violent crime, property crime is down. So it is working. And it goes to show you that all you really had to do was put the police in a position to do their jobs, or the National Guard in this case, and let them do what they do, which is protect the people. But Democrats don't want that. So they're sitting here on an 80-20, 90-10, 95-5 issue on the wrong side, right? That's number one. But number two, they are defending criminals. Meanwhile, the people that you talk to are like, thank God they're cleaning up this city. You know, we want to be able to walk down the street. We want to be able to go to a restaurant, sit outside, you know, go to a park, whatever it may be, go shopping. They can't do that. It's ridiculous. And then these talking head idiots, these prostitutes on television, oh, it's really not that bad, you know, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, they're secretly going, thank goodness President Trump is doing this. Now, they can't say that because they don't want to lose their audience and this and that. And then you have these crazies that are going around and they're protesting, making their city safer. So let's break that down. Are they really caring about that? No. They want what? Power. And what is power? Illegal votes. That's why. Hey, don't get rid of that bad hombre. He was a registered Democrat. Don't get rid of that Tren de Agua. He was a registered Democrat. That homeless guy on the corner that you just picked up, who's barely alive, guess what? He's a blue voter. That's their issue. That's their problem. And now they've been exposed. Because how can you, with a straight face and a unguilty conscience, not want to have safety for your fellow citizens and yourself? Other than there's another motive, and that motive is, oh, well, if we're going to stay in power and continue with all of this disgusting crime and murder and drugs, well, we got to make sure that they don't take away our illegal voting base. That's what this is all about, okay? It's really just that simple. Now, President Trump, I think, has 19 or 20 days left. There's now an additional 5 more National Guards that have come in. I'm hearing that in the next 2 to 3 days, you're going to have another 4 or 5 coming in. So you may have 10 to 12 National Guards from different states coming in the last bit to really help clean things up, which is exactly what I suggested on Monday, and I've suggested it now. I've suggested it before. So let's see if that ends up working, because I have also heard that when Congress comes back and all that, they have no appetite, even though it's working. The Democrats do not want to vote in order to allow President Trump to have, the cleanup go another month or another 2 months or anything. So from what I'm hearing is they are looking for other ways to extend this. And who knows what that might be. It could be a national emergency. It could be maybe some other legal, avenue they can go down to extend it a little bit further. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. But I know that they're trying to do that. So we'll see what happens. In the meantime, the people are happy and the streets are no longer crappy. Okay. So here's another great thing about the One Big Beautiful Bill that has just come out. And I didn't know about this, so I'm bringing it to your attention. And I really like this. Like I did a couple of weeks ago, maybe about a month and a half ago, you may remember, I found out that there's no more fuel requirements, ridiculous fuel mileage requirements that absolutely destroyed the automotive industry and all that. That's now gone from the One Big Beautiful Bill. Well, guess what? There's now a Pell Grant eligibility for trade schools. That's right. Forget your Ivy League, forget your 4-year degree, forget your left-wing indoctrination centers. You want to be a plumber, you want to be, a roofer, you want to be whatever it is that you want to be. Guess what? You can now go to a trade school and you can use a Pell eligibility grant for it. That was part of this bill. And I love this. The budget reconciliation bill that Congress passed on July 3rd, 2025 includes workforce Pell legislation, a long-standing priority for Jobs for the Future that would expand Pell Grant eligibility to learners and workers who want to pursue a short-term job training program. So there it is. If you want to do heating and air conditioning, if you want to do plumbing, if you want to do roofing, if you want to do whatever trade it is that you want to do, and let's say that trade specifically has, maybe a 6-month program or 1 year, 18 months, or whatever it might be that you have to learn to become, a mechanic or a motorcycle mechanic or whatever it may be, you can now use the Pell Grant for that. And I think this is wonderful. The workforce Pell portion of the One Big Beautiful Bill, which goes into effect on July 1st, 2026. So coming up next year, includes a number of metrics and provisions that were part of the bipartisan versions introduced in recent years. Below, we tackle a key set of questions and preview what to expect from the Pell Grant expansion. Before this bill passed, Pell Grants, the main form of federal grant aid for students with low incomes, could only be used for programs that were at least 600 clock hours and 15 weeks long. That means that many high-quality short-term training programs, often designed to quickly prepare a student for a specific skill set for an in-demand job, were not eligible. Now they are. As a result, students who want to pursue those paths often receive no federal financial aid. Workforce Pell Grant changes all of that. It opens up the Pell Grants to students enrolling in short-term career-focused programs. These could be in the healthcare field, in the information and technology field, in the skilled trades field, or any other growing field where employers need immediately trained talent now, and where students can often earn a credential in weeks or months, not years. Some students enrolled in shorter term programs have had grants available to them through the state or the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, but that aid is not universally accessible, leaving many students with an affordability gap. This expansion addresses that and can expand access. So this is wonderful. This is a wonderful thing. Why? Well, because you're going to have people that maybe don't want to go to college. Maybe they don't need to go to a 4-year school and be indoctrinated in left-wing Marxism. And instead they go, hey, you know what? I don't want to be saddled with $250,000 to $300,000 in debt when I get out and graduate with a degree in basket weaving and 14th century, architecture, whatever the hell it is that you want to, waste your money on. I'm going to go to a heating and air conditioning, heating and whatever, plumbing or whatever it is. I want to do that. And so how long is it? 6 months? Okay, great. I'm going to go do that. I'm not going to have any student loan debt. And then I'll be able to get a job right away because I'm certified for whatever it is that I wanted to do. And guess what? I'll work at that new company for 2-3 years. I'll learn the trade as best I can. And guess what? I'll open up my own business and I'll be making a ton more money than these idiots that spent 4 years being indoctrinated. Then they graduate and they got $250,000 to $300,000 to still pay back, and they're not making any money yet. I love it. I love it. And you know what? Charlie Kirk, he's correct. It is a scam. College, 4-year college and more is a scam. Unless you're going to do something so specific, heart surgeon, brain surgeon, whatever, you're going to do something like that, anesthesiologist, whatever it might be, then yeah, I can understand. Do we really need more lawyers? Of course not. Why do you think California has earthquakes and New York has more lawyers? Because California got first choice. So anyway, that's another really good thing to hear, and it's in this bill. And this administration wants to push out these specifically skill set trade individuals. Why? Because they're going to be conservative voters. That's why. Why? Because they're using their hands. Because they're real world. They're working 9 to 5. They're coming home tired. They're doing overtime. They're not sitting at a desk or preaching something at a college somewhere as a professor, or carving up our legal system as some disgusting left-wing radical lawyer. Instead, they're giving instant, and I mean instant, as soon as they graduate, boom, they've got a job basically. So they are instantly giving back to the economy right away. So that means what? They're not going to be on the street. They're not going to be hopefully involved in crime. And more importantly, they're going to have work ethic. And work ethic people vote Republican. Okay? So that's why I am absolutely tickled to no end about this. I think this is amazing. And I'm so glad that this is part of the One Big Beautiful Bill. I'm sure there are many other great things still hidden in there. And trust me, when I find them, you'll all know about them as well.